Hey, peace world. Thanks for pressing play on another Pay Me No Mind sports and entertainment video. A little bit of bite down boxing talk. I was kind of gathering my thoughts the last 24 hours or so about the whole Maxim Dadashev situation, him passing away. And even if I go back really quickly before that, man, I didn't even really get my comments and thoughts out there on the passing of the great Pernell Whitaker, but definitely wanted to, that was crazy, you know, to think of a defensive fighter, a renowned defensive fighter, although he had a lot of talent offensively, but if you think of all the attributes that go into being great at defense, and the irony that, you know, he was struck by a vehicle, and that's what led to his death, is just crazy. So, you know, my heart goes out to his family and just, you know, his memory. And that was just unfortunate, you know, when you see people that you've admired or who've entertained you or left some kind of impact, you know, has some effect on your life in some way, or you've enjoyed that person, you know, to see him go out like that. So that was very unfortunate. Moving into the situation this past weekend with the Dadashev fight, like I said, against Surreal Matias, I did go to the fight, you know, and it was kind of crazy, you know, getting back into the week, lead into another fight week, you know, with Saturday's action with Hooker and Ramirez down in Arlington, Texas. And then the report comes out, was that yesterday? I don't know, I got the ESPN update from the ESPN app and just said that, you know, confirmed that Dadashev had passed away. And then, you, like I said, I went back and relived kind of like what was I doing while this was happening. You know, I didn't get a chance to look at my notes that I put together on the fight. But just, you know, what was being said in you know, in the media row area. How closely was I paying attention to the fight? Was I critical of anything that the man did during the fight? Just running back all types of different thoughts on the matter. And just hate to be disrespectful in that moment, unbeknownst to all of us, that, you know, that he was in some ways fighting for his life. And the crazy thing is, I want to say earlier in the week, I don't know if it was Robert Easter Jr. or if it was his partner, Tyler McCreary, who also fought that night, but one of them tweeted something or posted something on Facebook like, there is no tragedy if you die doing what you love. I think, don't quote me on it, but it was something like, it was like, it's not tragic if you die doing something that you love. And then we see, you know, Deontay Wilder comes to mind, who said, you know, you had to, you know, he mentioned about Anthony Joshua quitting against Ruiz, his words, not mine. But he mentioned, you know, you'd have to kill me in here. You had to take my life in here to beat me. And, you know, with everything that, and I'm struggling with, like, how to look at this situation right here. And I don't want to say anything inappropriate or insensitive to Dadashev's situation, his family. I think he was a father and a husband. But was this just like a matter of glory that went wrong? You know, it was moments earlier in that fight, where you know, they talked trash to one another after the rounds. There was some stare downs. And then I want to say maybe in that 8th or 9th round, after the round, they went to have another stare down, but I saw the gloves tap. Like, you know, a true showing of respect and admiration. You know, us battling it out in here. We putting on a hell of a show. Nobody's backing down. You know, nobody's standing down. Nobody's deferring to the other man. Let's go. And they tap gloves, you know, out of respect. With still that firmness, you know, as a part of it. And we saw the vicious body attack, I want to say, in the 9th round. I believe that's when McGirt wanted to stop the fight. You know, another thing going on here, this was an IBF eliminator for the 140-pound belt. The one that, the title that Josh Taylor is holding and will be putting up on the line against Regis Prograis later in the year, whatever that's announced. And like I said, man, Dadashev just, what we saw him display that night personifies the tweets. If you follow a bunch of boxers on social media, they got a different saying every day. I mean, some of them got one every other hour. You know, you know what they all are. But like I said, to see that, I want to say it was Robert Easter Jr. who was at the fight that night. But it's a lot of, we put these messages out there, and you think it's just some empty, it's just a fighter talking. But Dadashev just personified all of that. From the first round, he was up against it, against Matias. Matias had the hand speed, better, you know, more fluid punching, better motor, you know, better wheels. You know, Dadashev couldn't get away from him, couldn't out-punch him, couldn't outwork him. And, you know, as we get into the end of that fight, Dadashev is like on plan D, but still making it work, still trying to make it work. And I didn't know at the time, you know, I just realized, you know, how far he was behind in the fight itself. But I'm telling to some of the people, you know, some of my coworkers and stuff are asking me about what happened. Were you at that fight? That's what you went to? And I'm like, within the confines of boxing, not a whole lot really went wrong that night. It wasn't multiple knockdowns. It wasn't long stretches of time where Dadashev wasn't responding or wasn't fighting back. It wasn't like he, I mean, he was fighting up until his last, he was fighting up until until the fight was stopped. And, you know, he paid a cost for that. And I don't know, man. It's unfortunate. It's terrible. You know, the wife was, I guess she arrived, was it Monday afternoon? You know, she probably never saw him conscious again. And, you know, like I said, it's a child involved. He had a team behind him. You know, Buddy Gert, you know, probably is dealing with some things. And then just to think the life that I believe he was like living in Oxnard, California, and, you know, sacrificing being away from your wife for months, being away from your kid, being, you know, sacrificing everything to make it to the level to where you're competing in an eliminator and having the opportunity to fight for a world title. And, you know, this was a fight where he, you know, his purse was $75K. And I had mentioned to somebody who was sitting next to me, you know, again, I say this all the time, we sit around here and we make all this conjecture and back and forth and heated and passionate exchanges about all of the pay-per-view stuff and fights that never get made, and you know, $100 million, $75 million purses and $40 million purses. And these fights can never get made. And then you get into a situation like this where this man was fighting for his life, you know, unbeknownst to him, for $75K. And they went at it. You know, they went at it all night. And, you know, it's just horrific, man. But it's it's a reality of the sport. And like I said, I've said to a couple of coworkers, like it really wasn't a stretch where, now it was some fierce body work in that 9th round, I want to say, where Matthias was just beating down on his body, on Dadashev's body. And you know, I guess maybe that would have been the time to stop it. But like I said, I don't want to second guess anybody. I just think it was, like I said, it was all kind of within the confines of what we know as boxing. And it'll be interesting to see, you know, what comes from this. There's not a lot of turnaround time. And the DC area, I mean, that athletic commission has come under fire for its handling of some different things. That's the same venue where the sucker punch happened with Leon Lawson and Uzcategui. You know, and how that whole thing played out with the decision in the Darrell fight. And there's been other instances, but again, I just felt like it's just a freakish type thing. Yes, it was probably preventable, but I guess today I'm not. You know, we're all mourning and you know, our hearts and expressing our condolences and all of that. But like I said, with Dadashev being on Plan D at that point, like he was 10 toes down on seeing that thing through. And that's just, I mean, that's kind of the expectation out of a fighter. You know, I saw a quote again, another quote on some movie I was watching. Oh, that City on the Hill, something from William Shakespeare. But it was some line about, you know, I traveled so far down the road that it take just as much to get back. To stop and turn around would take just as much as it would to finish this. And I think, you know, Dadashev in his life, in his journey with boxing, he was well too far down the road to not sell out on a you know, on an eliminator, on a title eliminator bout. And like I said, I'm not gonna say it's not a matter of feeling sorry for him and all of that. Back to you know, Robert Easter Jr.'s post on Facebook. Was it really that tragic if he was doing what he loved the best that he could do it and gave a full representation of who he was and what he stood for as a man and as a fighter and as a warrior? And I think at the end of the day, man, a lot of these fighters, even in MMA, a lot of these guys, man, I mean, you start working on this thing at 7, 8, 9, 10 years old and dedicate 10 to 15, 20 years to this thing, and you live that life, and you know, you can find yourself in that situation. A fighter could find him or herself in that situation. And as many guys have reiterated with their social media posts the last 24 hours, you're just not promised to walk down those steps. And, you know, we should respect everybody who walks up those steps and climbs in through those ropes. And like I said, man, that's why I talk about boxing in the manner that I do. And, you know, it may not be the most popular way. It might not attract the most, you know, subscribers and all of the meaningless stuff, all of the metrics and measurables and all of that stuff. But that's, like I said, that's why Bite Down Boxing kind of came to me as the title, you know, for my coverage of boxing. Is because, you know, in the right type of fights, in the right type of situations, when it means the most, you know, you probably gonna have to bite down to get through it. And like I said, man, it's a solid moment. And you know, I just hated to see that happen. And it's just a reminder, man. And lastly, just to close, like I said, we watch some fights almost every other show or something. You know, down on the undercard, there's a fighter who's completely being outclassed by somebody who's being groomed, and there's either an unnecessary punch or two that's taken, or there's 3 or 4 unnecessary rounds that are fought because this prospect needs rounds. Everybody's playing their position, you know. Everybody's in their lane. Everybody's playing their role. And unfortunately, sometimes, you know, here and there, fortunately for everybody, there's way more happy endings versus tragic endings. But you know, it's just an unfortunate situation. So anyway, man, I just said this is like a diary entry, pretty much. But that's just kind of my thoughts. You know, I was just the courage that I saw on display that night. Like I said, man, for a fighter to get to plan C, plan D, and still wanting to represent himself in a way that's only meaningful and important to him at that point. You know, he's arguing with Buddy McGirt because him finishing on his feet and finishing on his own terms means that much to him. And then shout out to Lukey Cattell from Inside the Ropes, who had the video. He did a video of Dadashev, and Dadashev was like, "I fear no man." It's a lot of rappers saying that in lyrics and stuff. It's a lot of people saying, "I don't fear no man." But you never really have to prove it the way that Dadashev just exhibited for all of us. So anyway, that's it. I'm saying my piece on it. I'm sure there'll be a 10-bell salute in the memory of Dadashev. Condolences go out to, you know, to him and his family and his team, and just a moment that'll stick with me for a long time. Peace.